Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Leira Online Smicha. I want to discuss a halacha with a minik chabad that and perhaps give some reasoning to it. In the Shulchan Aruch, in Eira Chaim, where it talks about the halachas of Kriyas HaTorah, so in Siman Kuf Lamed Daled, there is the famous difference between Ashkenazim and Sfardim of when you do Hagbah to the Sefer Torah, when you pick up and lift up the Sefer Torah for the people to see. The Mechaber says you do it as you're bringing it out from the Aron HaKodesh, and you bring it to the bima. By the bima, you open up the Sefer Torah for the community, for the people to see. The Ramah, however, says, No gulasis kain achesh shekaro b'Torah. The custom is, however, that we do it after, we do Hagbah after you read the Torah. Why is there this difference? So it's brought that the reason why it was changed, even though it's mentioned clearly in the earlier sources, it's actually preferable to do it before Kriya, and there's reason for that, because the Arizal says the Hagbah before Kriya reveals the Ha'aras HaTorah unto the people. Nevertheless, people made a mistake. People thought that was the main thing of the Kriyas HaTorah. The main thing is to open the Torah, and people looked, and that was good enough, and people left before they actually heard the Torah. So that could be the reason why the Ramah switched and said, no. That Hagbah, that great thing that happens during Hagbah, should only take place after you heard the Kriyas HaTorah. But besides for that, I want to talk about the way you do the Hagbah, where we find there's 2 points in the Hagbah that Lubavitch, Minik Chabad, is to do it different than the rest of the world. And that is, the rest of the world, when they pick up the Sefer Torah, they put it down, they pick it up, let everybody see, they put it down the rest of the world picks up the Sefer Torah. As it's lifted up, the person sits down on the chair. So the person picking it up is called the Magbia, the one who lifts the Torah. And somebody else comes and does the glila and closes the Sefer Torah as the person sat down with it still open. Minik Chabad is the person who picks it up. The Magbia puts it down on the bima, closes it, and as it's closed, he sits down on the chair. And the question is, what's the reason for this? So the Rebbe points out, and it's in Igros Kodesh Chelek Yud Ches, Amid Tov Chav Zayin. The Rebbe points out, the Rebbe gives 4 different reasons what's the benefit of doing it that way. Number 1, he starts off with the famous reason the Aruch HaShulchan writes. Remember, the Gemara says that there are many aliyahs that are given to a person coming to the Torah. The Gemara uses the term Hagoylaloi, the one who does the Galila, the one who closes the Sefer Torah, Noito Schar Kulam. He gets the reward of everyone. In other words, it seems to me that's the most precious aliyah, the connection to the Torah, is the one who closes it. And yet, if you do it the way the world does it, that a person lifts it up and sits down in a chair as it's still open, and somebody else closes it, somehow it became the world that the one closing it is a young child. So what the Gemara says is the highest level of the Gailuloi is done by a child. Therefore, it was changed, says the Aruch HaShulchan, if you do it the way Chabad does it, that the person who lifts it up puts it down on the bimba and he closes it, so it's a mature adult that does really Hagbah and Galila. Then when he sits down, when it's closed, fine, then let it be even a younger child to do so. Because the Galila, the closing of the Sefer Torah, is the greatest, is the Noito Schar Kulam. So according to the way Chabad does it, it's included in the Hagbah. That's the reason the Aruch HaShulchan gives. The Rebbe gives 3 other reasons. Number 1, says the Rebbe, you could understand from so much that we do when the Sefer Torah is available, that we try to minimize as much as possible the Sefer Torah being open. As we know, between aliyahs, we close it. If you're saying a prayer, we close it. So to try to minimize the Sefer Torah being open like this to the public as much as you could, the best way to do it is to put it down, close it, and then sit down while it's closed. Another reason, says the Rebbe, to minimize the difference between, as much as you're able to, between Sephardim and Ashkenazim. We know that the Sephardim, even though they do the Hagbah before the Kriyas Torah, the one who does the Hagbah by them puts it back, by them the Sefer Torah is put back on the bima and it's closed. So the same thing, why don't we at least do this detail the same as the Ashkenazim, as the Sephardim, the one who lifts the Sefer Torah puts it back on the bima. And the third reason the Rebbe brings from the Shari Ephraim, for the Galila to be able to be done proper and stronger and better, it's actually better if it's put down on the table and you do a proper Galila. So those are the reasons for that part of the Minhag Chabad, of why we do the Galila that way, why we do the Hagbah Galila that way. But there is another part that Chabad does different, and that gets very little mention. When you close the Sefer Torah and then you tie it with the gartel or whatever it is you tying it with, there is a minhag Chabad that's mentioned, and there's no source to that. And the Sefer Minhagim, it doesn't even bring a source. And today maybe we'll talk about some reasoning that I brought. The rest of the world, when they tie the gartel around the Sefer Torah, they try to make sure that the gartel should be tied on the top third. The Sefer Torah is divided, let's say the Sefer Torah is divided in 3 parts, it should be in the bottom of the top third. The Chabad minhag, however, is that we actually we lower it to the top of the bottom third. And the question is, what's the difference? And again, as I mentioned before, there is no mucker for why our minhag is that way. It just says that is our minhag. So let's first talk about what reasoning might there be why the rest of the world does the glila, does the tying with the gartel on the upper third. And they say that it is based on the minhag that the Divrei Chaim of Tzanz said it should be done this way. And some of the reasons are brought in Darkei Chaim V'Shalom from the Munkach of the Minchas Elazar, that the wrapping of the Sefer Torah, the tying of the Sefer Torah, should be like the mezuzah, just like the mezuzah you place on the doorpost, on the bottom part of the top third of the door. The same thing by a Sefer Torah, when you're tying it, it should be the bottom part of the top third. Others say that's actually the easiest place to tie it. And others say, listen, when you're approaching the Sefer Torah, automatically your hands reach there first. So why lower it when you should just tie it the first place possible? So those are some of the reasons why they tie, the rest of the world ties the Galila on the top third. Why would there be a reason what reason may there be to tie it on the bottom third, the top part of the bottom third? So some brought a raya from the Yerushalmi and Perek Daled of Maseches Tainis, Halacha Hey. Over there it says that when the Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the Luchas, Hashem was holding it in the top third, and Moshe Rabbeinu was holding it in the bottom third. So to commemorate that, how Moshe Rabbeinu held the Luchas in the bottom third, maybe that would be a mucker. Others say maybe there is it's similar to how we put a gartel around our body. And just like the gartel between in our bodies to separate the heart from the bottom part of the body. So some say that according to Kabbalah, Chassidus, a Sefer Torah also has 3 levels. There's the Roish, Guf, and Regel. There's the head of the Sefer Torah, the body of the Sefer Torah, and the bottom part of the Sefer Torah. And to separate them, maybe that's why it's done that way. But there is no clear reason written for why it's that way.